Hello and welcome to Ask Me About K-Pop, the essential guide for recent converts and seasoned fans alike. My name is Shannon.
And I'm Angelica.
And how are you doing today? I am personally quite sore from the Patreon episode that we filmed yesterday.
I am not as sore as I thought I would be. That there was an unexpected drop squat in my day, which I didn't prepare for or realize I would be dropping into when I woke up that morning. But I'm doing okay.
Okay, so that's a little tease for the Patreon members. There will be an episode out this week. I'm not going to tell you what it was yet, but we got sore somehow, and it was a really fun time, and I'm definitely going to put a free clip on the Instagram because it was too funny. But if you want to see what that's about, then you have to join our Patreon. Aha, I got that plug up top.
Nice. For less than $10 a month, you can have extra ridiculous content of 30-something nerds making fools of themselves in the privacy of their own homes.
And then
for all of you to see.
Exactly. Well, anyway, I'm really excited about today's episode because it's a learning episode, and you know
Our
how
favorites.
excited and nerded we get about learning episodes. So I think we're going to cover two main topics today of elements that have been kind of trendy in K-pop recently, or might be showing themselves more. And these are two different ways in which traditional Korean culture has started to overlap with K-pop. So I did a whole bunch of research about musical instruments and more pansori singing stuff, and Angelica learned so much about the resurgence of Hanboks as casual fashion.
Yes, which we have lovingly referred to on this podcast as fashion hanbok, but there's actually a term for it, so we'll get into that later on in the episode.
Yes. So this is very exciting. We did a lot of research, and I'm really excited to get into it today. But as always, today's conversation was about elements that we could directly tie to examples of K-pop songs. So obviously there are many more instruments that I will not get to today, and et cetera, but we wanted to try to tie it into K-pop because this is a K-pop show.
Of course. So these are, instances where, like you said before, they've overlapped.
Yes. So specifically today's topic, what I wanted to talk about is what Arirang News called fusion Gugak. And so our first vocabulary word today is Gugak, which is an all-encompassing term for all forms of traditional Korean music and entertainment. Pansori singing is included. There's also mask dancing and fan dancing and all kinds of different ancient entertainment forms. And they're all called Gugak. So that's our first vocabulary word of the day. And then the second one is another big term, and this is dechita. And I am probably playing the August D song Dechita under this right now because it is a clear example.
And he says it over and over and over again.
Over and over again. Dechita is specifically traditional military music that was played by the king's military band. And it means great blowing and hitting. So it's supposed to be very intense, intimidating military music.
Sure, in your face.
Yes, and there's a very specific band that is put together for dechita music, and it includes a special drum called a yongo that has a dragon painted on it, and that drum is only used for dechita music. And in the August D song, he got a sample from the National Gugak Center. They recorded a traditional the song dechita for him to sample in the song. So I thought that was very interesting. And I read a quote from Lim Jae-won, who is currently the director of the National Gugak Center in Korea. And he personally believes that this resurgence of interest in Gugak music came around after the 1988 Olympics that were held in South Korea. Because before that, there weren't a lot of people who still played these instruments. We have to remember, like, Korea was occupied for a long time, and then there was a long war. So, like, a lot of the time traditional stuff can get, like, lost in that way. So, like, the Olympics really, like, made everybody, like, proud of Korea and Korean stuff again. So there was this new interest in people wanting to learn how to play these instruments and find new ways to make this music part of everyday life. And if you've ever visited South Korea and ridden public transportation, they use little clips of Gugak music on the subways and the bus to, like, alert that you've made it to your stop. They all have, like, a different little song. And whenever I hear them, it, like, makes me not homesick, but just Korea sick for Korea. So that's how it's, like, sort of become more part of everybody's lives every day, and that they hear it all the time. But it started to make its way into K-pop. It has been for a while, but I feel like recently the examples are kind of, like, piling up. So I wanted to talk about it today. All right. So first we can start off with some instruments and concrete examples of them being used in K-pop songs.
Great.
So the first one is called a gayagum. And this is a large string zither instrument that usually has at least 12 strings, but can have up to 25 strings. And it's played on the floor. You, like, lean it on your lap. It's like a big old lap harp, but it's played 2 hands, plucky fingers. And it sounds like this. The gayagum was invented somewhere between year 50 and 500. And the story is that a Korean king on a visit to China saw a Chinese version of an instrument like this being played, and then got home and ordered someone to make him one. So that's how it came to be. And this instrument can be heard very clearly in a few songs, and the first one is Shangri-La by Vix. This song actually has, like, a couple of fun elements of, like, Asian culture in it. There's, like, fans, and the title is referencing, like, a traditional Chinese folktale, I believe. And it looks like, member N said to Billboard, "We put in a lot of East Asian influences, but the ironic thing was that the performance and the music feels like it adheres to more of a Western pop feel."
Yeah, I thought that quote was interesting because I feel like the East Asian influences that they chose to put in it, because, like you said, the instrument itself is, like, a big part of the song, and it kind of, like, haunts the chorus throughout, like, through a whole thing, and it's great. This is honestly a masterpiece. I fucking love this song. So it's, like, the only Vic song I know, and it's so good. And we will talk about the fashion in it a little bit later on, but there's a lot of really distinct elements to it. So I was surprised that he said that he thought the performance seemed pretty Western, because I don't know if I really thought that.
I would never
myself.
see boys dancing with fans and think that there was anything Western about that at all.
Same.
Right?
Same. But maybe he meant to, so I'm not really sure. I wished that he would have elaborated on that opinion.
But yeah, I think that that's kind of the vibe that is running through a lot of these songs, is that for the most part, a lot of these songs are trying to modernize or even Westernize or, you know, make more appealing these very old, like, extremely, like, ancient instruments, like, sound cool in a new way. So that's very interesting. Another one that's very recent, One Us, has a song called Lit.
나를 모르는 사람이 없으니 기분이 좋구나 종이 번쩍 쇠 번쩍 우리 위한 축제가 벌어지는구나.
That has like very strong gayagum instrumentation that you can hear, and like I'm playing the clip right now, but the rap break has it really strong. But this is another one where the music video itself like takes place in a palace, and there's cool Hanbok wearing that we can talk about. But like it's a generally an overtly Korean concept to the whole thing.
Yeah, Korean history factors very greatly into the whole concept of the music video. And it was interesting going through all of these examples of the songs, how, like, when that did play into the concept and when it didn't. I feel like with this instrument in particular, most of the artists that chose to use this instrument like chose to make it central to the whole concept of the song. And I wonder if it's because of the instrument, like maybe the instrument has a specific reputation in Korea, because like the Chinese one that it's based off of is known to be, it's like associated with Confucius, and it's like a very elegant, refined. So I wonder if there's something about this instrument in particular that made artists want to like center the whole comeback around it.
It's very strong. It's like it's a really bite. Like all of the instruments today, they're very like biting. They like cut right through the air and make a statement.
But some of them are factored in more subtly into the instrumentation. And this instrument, I felt like, was almost in all of the songs that we'll talk about. It's like a main part of the intro, and then it's like a main hook of the melody or the chorus.
Another one that's on this list that I had mixed feelings about, because it's like on the top of everybody's like lists and articles about like traditional Korean songs or, you know, elements in K-pop songs. And so Top
Fusion
Dog,
Gugak, to use our term.
yes, Fusion Gugak, thank you. I made vocabulary, so we should use it. That the group, I want to find the year because I need to know what year it was. And okay, 2014. So back in 2014, boy group Top Dog put out a song called Arario, which is like kind of a play on arirang, which is like the national traditional Korean song. And this video has like a full Gugak band and the masked dancers and like all of the things. It has like all the elements, and that's very strong. But at the same time, all of the sets where the Top Dog members are not in their like traditional Korean garb, they are wearing hip hop clothes and have dreadlocks and braids and do-rags and such. And I like didn't know what to do with like both of those things in a music video.
Yeah, I wrote it down as hip hop Hanbok, which is like the only example of that particular flavor of fusion on this list. But I honestly thought, I watched this music video and I thought it was really fun. I think the way that they use the instruments in the song is great. Like the song itself is really fun. I did write like, oh wow, that's a bad braid hat. And like the general, like some of the elements of the like hip hop Hanbok are pretty bad, but the way that they incorporate like the dragon dancers and like the masks and the girls in their like scanty Hanbok, which we'll talk about later, and the like all the gats, the like traditional hats. I just thought it like, I thought it was really fun. I liked it. I did like it a lot, even though there were some like questionable choices with what it was fused with.
Yes.
Maybe that was the poor choice, was that it should have been fused with more like, I mean, should have been fused. Top Dog was like a hip hop group, so I guess it makes sense that that's what they chose to fuse it with, but
it's just so hard not to
doesn't age well
cringe at those things, you know?
Yeah.
So those are some examples of gayagum, the large lap zither in K-pop. The next instrument I want to talk about is another extremely important one, and this is called a haegum. And this is a 2-stringed instrument that you play with a bow, like a violin, and it has like a big thick wood block base that you sit on your knee, and then the pole comes straight up with the 2 strings, and then you play it like blah, and it sounds like this. This is an instrument that was derived from a Chinese instrument that I think is called a zikin, but I'm not good at pronouncing Chinese, and YouTube had no examples of it. But this instrument was at least invented by the late 900s. That's when they have the first recorded writings about it. But this is one of the most widely used traditional Korean instruments. It has such a distinct sound, and it's so like haunting and warbly, and that there's only like the 2 strings makes its like range. It's a very interesting sounding,
very distinctive
yes.
sound to the instrument. Yeah, for sure. And this is one that you'll see, like we definitely saw. Actually, I feel like I've seen this played even in the subways in like Boston. You'll see like little street performers or something. Little, I don't know why I said little. Street performers in the subway playing this instrument. Although maybe they were playing the Chinese version as well. But they're very similar instruments with very similar sounds.
For sure. And the examples that I have of this instrument used in K-pop are all kind of odd. Like they use it in a way you might not recognize right off the bat. And the first one that I found really surprising, but you can hear it once you know, is The Chaser by Infinite.
저번에 이별의 말 앞에 멈춰가는 가슴 치고 무릎 꿇어본다 꺼져버린 썩은 장작 같은 슬픔에 타버린 날 끌어본다 지금 내 맘이 왜 아직 내 맘을 매일 설레고 헤매게 하는지 걸어본다 사랑해 날 그렇게 만들지.
So this song I feel like is memorable because of what feels like a kind of haunting like siren-y sound that's over the whole thing, but that's the hegum, but it's like been pitched up and electronicized in like a very wacky, echoey way. And it's so nuts, and I
never would have noticed that sound was this instrument if it hadn't like been on this list, because obviously this is like the Infinite song, and so we've heard it so many times, and I never really thought anything about it, but it just loops through the whole song as this like really phenomenal whine. I feel like it makes the song. Like without this song, or without this particular instrument, the song would not have been as powerful or as catchy for sure. And it's really great. It's a really good use of this
for
instrument.
Sure. The next example is an older EXO song that is called Love, Love, Love. And this song actually uses both the haegum and the gayagum that we both talk, like both of the stringed instruments, but they are chopped, they are backwards, they are pitched up. There's also a lot of cartoon sound. This song has a lot of really crazy shit going on in it, but some of the crazy shit is traditional Korean instruments being like bent and chopped and like arranged in wacky, wacky ways.
Yeah, this song is truly wild. Like the melody of it is so crazy. Like you said, there's just layers and layers of chopped instruments, and then those weird like cartoon whizzing sounds, like and like I had never heard that song before because it's an older song.
I've never heard that version because they do an acoustic version of it at Exoplanet 3, which I have on a CD. Like Chanyeol plays it, and they like do runs, and like it's a different song than the version that is on Overdose. So I was kind of shocked by the original recorded version because I didn't know it that way. I knew it as a different song.
It's also a totally bananas song, like a totally insane fucking song.
Yeah. EXO. All right, and then the last example I have of haegum in K-pop is actually in Super M's song, I Can't Stand the Rain.
So tangential EXO.
I can't stand the cold any longer.
Yes. This was on Super M's debut album. And Baekhyun said in an interview with Refinery 29, we wanted to emphasize the harmony between Western and Asian music, and that's why the drums and the haegum are on this westernized beat. So yeah, I thought that was really cool that Super M wanted to intentionally include some traditional Korean instruments in their American pop debut.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That I loved that they made that a specific point. And this song starts with those really big, like, traditional Korean drums that just, like, boom and, like, echo.
Yes.
This song is so great. This is one of my favorite song off of the debut album. I fucking love this song. The way that the haegum, like, sort of echoes after Baekhyun's vocals in the chorus is so great. The song is like haunting. Like the drums just like beat in your soul, and then like you hear the haegum in the background and it like haunts it. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I fucking love this song.
Yes, great. So those were two stringed instruments that I wanted to talk about. And then now it's time to get into horns. So the next most common Korean instrument that you will hear most often is called etepbyongso. And this is a small wooden oboe, and it has a metal horn bell at the end of it. But it's also sometimes called a hojok or a sennap or a nalari. And nalari is its onomatopoeia title, because that nalali is what it sounds like. But it sounds like this. This instrument was probably invented somewhere around the year 900, but its earliest mention in recorded Korean history is 1493. But they think that it was around the continent much longer than that. And it has a very sharp, very loud sound that is like almost saxophone-esque in its kind of way that it browns.
Yeah, but the reed in it is like very tinny in a way that it probably, or like if you traced it all the way back, I feel like it probably came from maybe like India or the Middle East, because it has like a very like high-pitched reedy wail to it.
That's right. I think I still have the Wikipedia page open. I think you might be right. Yes, Persian. It comes from a Persian instrument. Yes, girl, you did it. Yeah.
Great.
So this is a very popular instrument in K-pop because I think it makes for really cool beats. And the first example of this is in Idol by BTS. And the clip I'm playing right now is the part where I feel like it's the most isolated in the song. But this song has a lot of drums, which they said were a mix of like African drums and traditional Korean drums. And then they have the tepbyongso as sort of part of the like percussion instrumentation when like some of the rap verses like fall out, like the
it's
melody
like the
falls out a little
background.
bit.
Yeah, it's like the background melody of the verse of a lot of the verses.
Yeah, but the way that very strong like of it, like real, I think kind of makes the whole song. It like brings the song in so strong for a song that is like going so hard the entire time.
Yeah, it's like, such a driving instrument. Like maybe it is because that song is, or the sound is so like blaring that it just like pushes the song forward.
The next example is from a couple of years ago, and this was Sunmi's song La La Lay. What did Sunmi say about writing this song?
So she talked a lot about this song because originally the title La La Le comes from the onomatopoeia title that you told us at the beginning, the Nalari, right? So apparently after Sunmi went on tour and she went to a concert in Mexico, she talked about how like the energy of the Mexican crowd was so infectious that she like went back and was thinking about how, and she was like, I'll always remember like the energy that they had there. And then thought about how Korea is also known for its type of energy. And she thought of this word la la le, which I guess is slang for knowing when to let loose.
Okay.
And then she had heard that the tapyeongso instruments are called la la le in folk music. So she thought it would be a good starting point for the song, and then built the whole song around the sound of that instrument and the idea of letting loose and having fun. That's where the title comes from, and the whole song is built around the like anti-chorus of that instrument. It doesn't factor into it visually, but it is like the cornerstone of that whole song, and it's fantastic.
The way that it blares out at the very beginning with that like crash of just like, this is what you are in for, and it's just like echoing by itself, and like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, no need to buckle up, just go for the ride.
That's exactly what she said. Yeah, great. Thank you, Sunmi, for that bop.
And for everything you do.
Yes. This next example is another one where the instrument has been modified into a way where it's almost unrecognizable. And this is Hangover by Psy featuring Snoop Dogg.
Hangover.
So this is another one where like, now that I've said it, I'm sure you can hear it, but it's like the sound has been like shortened and messed with and like turned into a funky beat for Psy and Snoop Dogg to rap over.
Yeah, but it's still but like that sort of mixed version of it is kind of like Sunmi's, well, although Sunmi's came after this, in a similar way of Sunmi's, is like the main anti-chorus of the song. Like it is the driving force in the chorus of the song, which isn't really a chorus.
Right.
But if you have not watched this music video before, please do yourself a favor. It is a fucking delight. I mean, Psy is a delight and Snoop Dogg is a delight, and together it's just a fun time. It's a great, I won't even tell you what happens in it because it's worth not knowing anything about it. And so yeah, I highly recommend Psy Hangover featuring Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I remember being like very sad when that like didn't catch on as much as I wanted it to, because I thought it was great.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I love that song, and I always think of it because the chorus is just hangover, 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 hangover. And when you are hungover, it isn't necessarily a song you want to listen to, but it is something you can sing to yourself when you are feeling very hangover, hangover, hangover.
Exactly.
I think about it all the time. No, not all the time. I don't drink that much. I can't remember the last time I was hungover.
Yeah. No, good for you.
Thank God.
Okay, the next song I have that has prominent tapyeongso in it is Follow by Monsta X.
Fire.
And like the two examples before it, the tapyeongso is used for a very like powerful like anti-chorus.
Yeah, it's really,
they are saying fa la la lo on it. But,
yeah. But it's like the main hook
part,
of the
it's
melody.
the more important part.
Yeah.
It's almost more important than them saying fa la la lo a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because it's like so. And it's just that part where like just the like fire and then like the way that it just like blasts in is so good.
Yeah, it's just like Sunmi used it in the same way because this song starts with it right away and it just like bam wakes you up like, oh okay, we're going, here we go.
And I think that's great. So yeah, I call for more Taepyeongso and more songs because I think it's crazy and it's so distinct and fun.
It's a really fun sound.
And then the next thing I wanted to talk about is another fluty instrument, and this is called a piri. And this is the smallest of the Korean traditional instruments, but it is extremely loud, and it is a bamboo flute, and it sounds like this. There are actually 4 types of piris, like clarinets or things where they come in different keys. And there's one that's really, really low. And I watched a video of a girl playing like a jazzy song on one. And I was like, this is nuts. And also North Korea has their own version of this.
Oh, interesting.
North Korea has a couple of like their own versions of these instruments. And that guy who runs the Gugak Center just recently opened a North Korea exhibit in his Gugak Center because he wants that to be part of it too.
Sure. Well, that would be really fascinating to see how the two have evolved since being separated from each other. But PD you probably know because Dreamcatcher has a song that is titled PD and prominently features its sound. As you can hear right in this clip. I like this because I feel like because it is such a like small like whistly fluty instrument, I feel like it's nice that Dreamcatcher like called it out and like that's what the song is because it's like calling attention to this thing that like maybe you would just like mistake for a piccolo if they hadn't like specifically called it out in the title of the song. Yeah, and it is truly the focus of the song again. Like it is not only the title but also like the sound of it is the main line in the chorus and it's used throughout the whole thing, and then the vocals also like mirror it. Like in there's like a little part where it's very nice the way they use it.
Yeah. So that is a PD as featured in the Dreamcatcher song. So then the next thing that I wanted to talk about was percussion. And then as soon as I started digging into that, I realized that there are an insane amount of traditional Korean percussion instruments. And there's no way that I could get to all of them or find which songs they were all used in. But generally, there are a lot of different kinds of chimes where there are like big bells hanging on poles, and there's drums of all shapes and sizes, and gongs and little cymbal things. But the one thing I wanted to talk about today is called a samulnori. And this is a quartet of traditional drums where there's a small gong, a large gong, an hourglass drum, and a puk, which is a big barrel drum. And if you go to, say if you were visiting Korea and you were like at Namsan Tower, you might see a samulnori like doing a little drum circle, and they're wearing traditional outfits, and it like appears to be like, you know, ancient traditional stuff like you'd see at a
palace or something.
At a palace. But it's actually a very new thing. The samulnori was established as a thing in 1978. Some students like put together the first samulnori band. And it was like they were trying to take all of the elements from traditional farmer folk music and like turn it into a style of drumming that could be done to like celebrate the culture or whatever. So it's a common thing that you see around, but like it isn't actually an ancient thing. It's a newer thing. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, what a twist.
Yeah. BAP has a song called No Mercy, and there's a dance break towards the end of the song that is just a samulnori drum, people like fucking going off while they do flips.
Hey! Oh! Hey!
And
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Yeah, the drums don't really, the quartet of drums doesn't really factor into the rest of the song. It's like only in this dance break, but it is cool because to have seen that instrument be played and then to watch this music video, because the choreography sort of mirrors the way that the drums are played in a circle. Like that whole dance break takes place with the only one person's in the middle, and then there's like a circle of the rest of the members, and they like change circles a couple of times, whatever, but they stay in that formation the whole time. So it's nicely used.
Yeah. So those are some examples of traditional Korean instruments showing up in K-pop. And I'm sure there are others that like I couldn't confirm. These were ones where like articles were written and someone said that's the instrument they used. But I'm sure that it comes up, like, I bet people are using them like a lot. And now I think my ear will listen for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with all the different types of drums. I'm sure that there are a lot of traditional drums that get incorporated more often than we realize.
Yeah, so that's instruments. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was how types of traditional song have made their way into K-pop. Specifically, I wanted to talk about pansori and its like new resurgence as being a cool thing. I talked about pansori singing in our trot episode.
Yes.
So go back and listen to that one if you haven't. But for a refresher, pansori is a type of ancient Korean storytelling that is like singing with a drum. And people train for years to be able to do it properly because it involves a very specific vocal technique, and you have to tell the stories exactly the right way because they're old as fuck, and you have to like keep the tradition
the oral
alive.
tradition alive.
Yes, but there is a new alternative pop band, in quotes, that's what they call themselves, called Lee Nalchi. And this group, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with them.
They're so fucking cool.
얼쑥덜쑥거리는 잔뜩 한 마리 온다 동해 같은 앞다리 손도 같은 뒷다리 해나 같은 발을 도보로 옴돌 사람의 떼경로 잔디 우리 왕고래
Right now I am playing a clip of their most popular song, which is called The Tiger Is Coming, because Lee Na-chi has taken one of the 5 remaining ancient pansori stories, which is called Sugunga. And this is the story, people think that this is the funnest of the surviving pansori stories because it has anthropomorphized animals in it, which is like a little more fun.
And I would guess the other stories are probably tragedies.
Probably. I think that's usually the case. But this one is like a morality tale about not being naive. There's a dragon king and he needs a rabbit's liver or he's gonna die. So he sends a turtle to land to go find him a rabbit to get a liver. But the turtle and the dragon king don't know shit about land. So the rabbit is able to like trick them and escape because they went into a situation not knowing what
They didn't do their
were getting
research.
into.
We can get behind that moral.
Yeah. So Lee Na-chi has made an entire album of this traditional pansori story broken up into like 15 tracks, and they do the pieces of the story with these fucking sick bass loops.
God, it's so cool.
It's so cool and good, and I can't stop listening to it. It's so addicting. because just like the passion in the singing and like the levels and the like places it goes while this bass is just going like boom, 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 boom. Like,
yeah,
it's so fun.
It's just such a dynamic way of singing, and it like really, I feel like as soon as it starts, it's obviously not something that you have to look at, but it's like you can't look away from it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like as soon as you start listening to it, you're just like, what is this? And I don't know, it hooks you.
Yeah, it totally hooks you. So the band Linachi is composed of 4 trained pansori singers, 3 girls and 1 boy. I've seen a second boy sometimes, but that's who's usually there. 1 drummer and 2 bassists. And they, like I said, they have this great album. It's called Suguga. You can listen to the whole thing. But in 2020, the Korean Tourism Board partnered Linachi with a dance group that calls themselves Ambiguous Dance Company to make some ads that are called Feel the Rhythm of Korea. And they're wonderful. The Ambiguous Dance Company does like kind of silly, bouncy dances all over like all kinds of landmarks. There's videos for like every city in South Korea with a different song and a different dance while they like show the beautiful landscape. And it was so great, and it went super viral in 2020, and so they ordered a whole new set of them, and there's new ones that like started coming out last month, and like everyone lost their minds over these because they're great.
They're so endearing. They are just like cute. And I mean, the song is catchy, like we've already discussed. And then the dancing is really endearing. And they're wearing like goofy costumes in all of the videos. Like the Busan one, they're just wearing suits with swim caps and goggles. And like, it's so funny to see like the passersby that are just like, they stop everything that they're doing to just watch these weirdos in swim caps and goggles and suits do this awkward dance. And it's so fun. It's so fun. Also,
it is so fun.
It's SHINee approved.
Yes, I was going to say, if you are a Shawwal who watched SHINee Inc., like I told you to, there is a segment at the end of the episode. Taemin's segment was about meeting with other viral creators to figure out how to make SHINee go viral. So he met with Lee Nalchi and they rewrote Tiger is Coming to make it SHINee is Coming.
샤이니 돌아온다 샤이니 돌아온다 펜신 깊은 골로 대한 아이돌 돌아온다 몸은 반짝반짝 미모는 잔뜩
And then SHINee did a similar Ambiguous Dance Company dance in a lobby to put it over, and they remade a SHINee version of it, and it's great.
It's so good. It's so good. As soon as I started listening to this clip, or as soon as I saw the tourism clips, my brain immediately pictured Taemin doing the same motions, and I was like, why do I see Taemin doing this? Like, where have I seen this before?
SHINee Inc., baby.
SHINee.
So even though that's not like technically K-pop, I just really needed everybody to know about Lee Nalchi because it's great and you need to know it. But to bring it back to the K-pop and the pansori, a big hit this year has been from VIX's Ravi, his new song, Bomb.
Well, and I think also you could probably argue that because this song came after Lee Nalchi went viral, right? Like maybe this is a big inspiration for this.
I wouldn't be surprised because this song features a pansori singer named Bang Sumi. You can type her name into YouTube and she has a bazillion videos. And the Jeonju Pansori Choir. as well as rappers Chillin' Homie and Kid Millie. But this is like it's a rap song. It's a Ravi rap song, but it's highlighted by this very strong pansori verse where Bang Sumi sings, "Tiger, tiger, snakes will try to fly to you, but are flung thousands of miles away. Tiger, your spirit is different." And then Ravi just like goes off and like raps as fast as like just freaking goes crazy. But like every time they're like bum 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 bum, like oh my god, it gets you so hyped.
It's so powerful. Like it is the opening, like right out of the gate, it just like bam, like kicks in the door. And then I feel it's like the main part of the chorus of the whole song. And it's really great. We will talk more about this when we get to Fashion Hanbok for sure.
For sure. But yeah, love this one. And then I just had two other examples I found of not pansori, but traditional and trot music being sampled by, again, hip hop. I feel like the hip hop artists have more, like, more of them have found ways to use these sounds.
Probably because they use
beats.
Samples in more unique ways than in pop music.
For sure. But one of the earliest examples, I think, from this list is G-Dragon in 2013 on his
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat album, thank you. He has a song called Niliria featuring Missy Elliott.
Show City, G-Dragon, 학교 going empty. 이것은 힙합, 우리나라 민요의 랩은. 시구저 시구자도 너랑 난다. 큰 시로 내가 돌아간다.
And this song samples a traditional Korean folk song of the same name that sounds like this. Yeah, and I like this one a lot because it's like kind of subtle, but you like definitely can tell that it's there. And I think it's cool that for the song that G-Dragon like worked on with Missy Elliott, and they worked on it like 2 years before the album came out. So it was like always, they didn't just throw Missy on this track. It was like always supposed to be like a real collab. So I think it was really cool that he brought in something like so inherently Korean into this like collab with like a huge American hip hop star.
Yeah, we just recently talked about this song. I think it was our
because of
K-pop
KCON
in English. Oh, it was KCON. That's right. Because they did it. They debuted it at KCON. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that was, I think, the earliest example I found. And then another one that I think people talked about a lot when it came out was Mino from Winner, his solo song "Fiancé" from 2018. This song samples a 1969 trot song called Soyangang Maiden, which sounds like this. And the Korean title of this song is Anakne, which is actually a really old-fashioned word for someone else's wife. Scandal. Ooh. And we will talk about the fashion and other aesthetics of this video in a moment. But yeah, that was an example of a fun, like, old trot song being used in a similar way. And you know I love to talk about trot for any reason.
Trot. What a great... We'll make a separate trot podcast. I almost wonder if, because of the concept of this music video seems to have like they have a full set in the past. And I wonder if it was like someone else's wife, if it was supposed to be a past life. And so like the someone else's
Ooh.
wife refers to this like person who is like, oh, it was like his past life wife.
Interesting.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't look up
Maybe.
the lyrics. That was just my presumption based on the music video alone.
Yeah, but that wraps up my examples I found of some traditional instruments and traditional singing being used in modern K-pop. And yeah, so now you guys can all listen out for it in your music, and it's a trend that I hope continues, because I think it's really neat to try to take something that is so old and make it like new and cool again. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun too. And I think that it is a trend that's coming more on the rise, like with the pretty well established like international appeal and popularity that K-pop has. I feel like they are in a really great place to like start bringing in those traditional elements. And I think a lot of the artists, like when I looked up, you know, like interviews or whatever, like when they talk about using the instruments in it, it seems to come from a real like, well, now that we have this global stage, we want to draw attention to the fact that we are Korean, and like that is a big part of our identity. So we're not watering this down in order to fit some sort of Western market, which is really cool. And that is a trend that has also been happening in fashion, which is really fascinating. It's not just happening in Korea. I think that it's really taking off in Chinese street style too. Like there's, I don't know if you get them on your TikTok, but I get them on my TikTok.
Those people who walk, the walking people.
Yes,
who look
all of the
beautiful
like
on the
slow
street.
motion videos of like, yes, these like gorgeous couples in these like crazy traditional Chinese robes, and like some boy like skateboarding down the street in his like, I don't know the words for the Chinese versions, but Hanfu, it's Hanfu. Anyway, yes, they're beautiful. And so there's also been a resurgence of this like pride in traditional ancient culture and bringing it to the modern stage, which is always fun. And I love learning about the history of clothes. So this was a great time.
Yes. Regale us with what you've learned.
All right, so we are talking about Hanbok, and the word Hanbok literally translates to Korean clothing. Han is just the prefix that means Korean, and I'm assuming bok means clothes. But it just means Korean clothing. So for a very long period of time, Hanbok was just like, it wasn't traditional clothes. It was just the clothes.
It just was the clothes.
Yeah, because what's normally, it dates all the way back to 37 BC, because that's how freaking old Korea is. But the traditional styles that you usually see are styled after the Chosun era, which was from 1392 to 1910, which is a really long period of time. And over these hundreds of years, the style of this clothing changed very little. It's only recently that people started altering the lines and traditional silhouettes of the clothing. But there's two main pieces to hanbok, a top and a bottom. The top is called a jacket. It's a jacket. It's jogori. And then for men, they usually wear trousers, which are called paji, and women wear a skirt called a jima. And the traditional style, it has a very distinctive silhouette because the main structure of the hanbok is all focused around very straight lines. And they have the jacket for women is kind of like a cropped bolero jacket. It comes like just underneath the bust, and the skirt goes all the way like an empire waist underneath the jacket. And the jacket usually has sort of like pipe sleeves. It doesn't have the billowy sleeves that you would see on more traditional hanfu, for example.
Sure.
And so that's really distinctive in the men's style, because the men's jacket is like a wraparound jacket that usually goes to at least to the knees, but they can go all the way down to the ankles depending on, or even like mid calf, usually depending on the year that they're from. But they're really distinctive they all wrap with ties. That's like a distinctive part of the shape. And they're very vividly colored usually. There's a lot of symbolism that comes in the embroidery oftentimes. And like I said, there's been very few changes to the overall design, but people really, one of the reasons they've kind of been making a resurgence is because of that silhouette that it has with these sharp lines, but these like soft, billowy skirts where they're really flattering on everybody.
It looks comfy AF.
Yes.
Like, I've never worn hanbok because I've been afraid. Like, that's a career regret I have. I wish I would have just gone into one of those places and worn a hanbok to the palace because everyone else does it and it looks fun.
Yeah.
But they look so comfy that
Yes.
like, of all the traditional clothes you could ask for, like, they seem like, really, if you have to put it on for a holiday, it seems nice.
Yeah, because it's billowy. Like the skirt is huge. The all of the fastens are ties, not like buttons or something tight. Okay, put Cookie. Where are we going?
You're too dangerous. You've
Can't
knocked
be
over
left
computers
unattended.
before.
All right, you made it safely to the floor. The pants for the men, they again are tied, so nothing tight around your waist, but they're also usually wide-legged and pretty billowy.
Yeah.
So on both sides of the outfit spectrum, you've got comfort. But it's funny that I'm glad you brought up that you like regretted not wearing it, because it has become like something of pride for a lot of Koreans. They actually will give like hanbok as a gift, and like the tourism industry is really big on getting people into hanbok. The President Park for a while would do it became known as hanbok diplomacy, where she would like go to specific international meetings like wearing hanbok, and it became, because it is known now, it became known as this like ceremonial costume. So it became viewed as more for special occasions, like you wear it on chock and important holidays, or you might wear it for like a traditional part of the wedding. But you don't just wear it every day. It's like a special item. And so a lot of places now, like the tourism board will sort of push it, like in
You
palaces.
get into palaces for free if you're wearing one.
hanbok.
And there's also like a program that I guess I couldn't find a more recent article, but I found an article from 2018 about a city in Korea that was protesting the hanbok discounts because whoever was in charge of that city council did not like the new modern hanbok that are so bright and have like glitter on them.
Yes.
And was like, I don't want to give out discounts anymore if people are going to be wearing these trash hanboks.
So
but I don't know how that ended up settling, but like they didn't want to give, because I guess there were like restaurants that were part of a program where you get 10% off if you come in wearing your hanbok.
But there's no restrictions on what kind of hanbok
Yes.
you're wearing. And that's been a problem. It's a bit of a clash. It's not a huge problem because it is gaining popularity. But there is a school of thought of more like traditionalists who are not set on these modern takes of hanbok, because they think of it as sort of defiling something that is so symbolic and so like patriotic,
Almost sacred.
Yeah,
even.
exactly. So a lot of people are, not everyone is sold on it, but it is gaining traction. So like I said, this is the main style of clothing that was in Korea until the early 1900s. But by the early 1980s, Western styles had completely replaced hanbok as the normal style of everyday dress. And it wasn't until the 90s, the very early 90s, when a designer named Lee Young-hee, she's credited with revolutionizing the hanbok for the first time and like bringing it back. Because at a fashion week, she said in 1993, part of her collection had models sent out in the wait, I just forgot the word. In the jima, the skirt without the jacket. And so what that looks like basically is a strapless empire-waisted gown with like a very large skirt. It's super cute. But
it's like there's almost like a thin strip of like plain bra at the top, kind of.
Yes.
But it's very plain, and then the fun skirt starts after that.
Yes.
part.
The seam, there's like obviously the top seam where it is strapless, and then there's another seam maybe 3 or 4 inches down. So like not favorable for big breasted women, I can only assume. But the skirt starts about 4 inches down from the top of from the bust. So it's mostly skirt. And it is large, like it's billowy. It's not large in the sense that like it's not a circle skirt that has ruffles and layers to it. It is like just a large circle that sort of maintains its shape. You know what I mean? Like it's not one of those
it's just
skirts
coming
that,
down
like,
off you like a
waves.
Christmas tree.
Yeah, but it holds structure to it, right? It doesn't like flow in the wind. Like it will blow as a piece. You know
like
what I mean?
Full conical.
Exactly. Exactly. The shape holds its shape. And the collection was really well received in Europe. They thought that it was like a great take of elegance and freedom, but it received a lot of criticism in Korea because of the bare shoulders and having it without the jacket. They felt that it stripped the hanbok of the nationalism and traditionalism, which was, like I said, is a common criticism of it still today. But this was back in the 90s and sort of the first time that it had really happened on a big stage, and it happened on an international stage. So I think that's probably why maybe Koreans were a little bit salty about it, because it was like, you didn't you look at what you did.
You repped us bad
Look at what you did.
somewhere
You made them
else.
hussies. You exposed their shoulders.
But on that note, I thought it was very interesting that in both Mino's music video and the Top Dog music video that I talked about earlier, the girls in this video are wearing their hanbok without the jacket. And to me, like, I think it's because that top part is unfinished. It feels like you're not supposed to see it. It's supposed to have a jacket over it, which makes it seem vaguely like underwear, even though it is a huge skirt. So I think in both of these music videos, it's supposed to be a little cheeky, like in the way that rap music video girls wear like G-strings. These like rap video girls in the traditional video are just not wearing their hanbok jacket. Like salty.
Well, it does imply that a piece of clothing has been removed, right? Because it's traditionally the 2 pieces, and now you're getting it just down to 1. It's also, in terms of, ancient Asian clothing, not a lot of layers. So it is
only 2.
already like a, quote unquote scanty, old-timey costume. Like, even think about the like European things that they were wearing, like tens of thousands of layers and a cage made out of whale bones. Anyway, none of that here.
No.
So anyway, Lee Young-hee was not discouraged by the negative criticism that she received at home. She continued to make modern takes on hanbok in her collection. She eventually created a full exhibition called Hanbok Clothes of the Wind, and she became the first Korean designer to have her work featured in France's Fashion Week's I looked up how to say this. Pret-à-porter collection, which means ready to wear. So like the fashion weeks will have 2 categories. They have haute couture, which is like high fashion, and then they have pret-à-porter, which is ready to wear. And it doesn't mean it's like the fast fashion or even like mass produced, but it usually means that it's more comfortable.
Clothes you could actually wear outside.
Yeah, clothes you could actually wear. And that is going to come back when we look at like what's going on with hanbok today. So she was the main figure of this movement in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, a stylist named Soo Young-hee, who worked for Vogue Korea at the time, she wanted to counter what she saw as Korea's fashion industry's obsession with Western labels. And so she used her position at Vogue to try and start dovetailing blending these like Western haute couture with traditional pieces from Korean culture. And one example is in February 2006, the one that got her a lot of notice, where she took these models who had very brightly colored hair and were wearing these like couture gowns, and she put them in jokduri, which is a traditional coronet. It's a headpiece that is usually worn at the like front of the like crown of the head during weddings, is when you'll see them most often. They're very brightly colored, and they're usually like the side. They have different shapes, but they're kind of like a little box, and they just like sit right on top of the head, and they have different patterns.
Little beads that hang down.
And sometimes they have a piece that like builds up, but they're not usually very big.
Right.
They're like, they just sort of sit at the top of your head. Anyway, also in the early 2000s, a designer, Kim Yong-jin, she is credited with marking a new era of hanbok design because she studied under a woman who was a master of hanbok needlework. It's like I said, traditional hanbok usually has really exquisite embroidery, and there's a lot of symbolism behind the images that are embroidered on the clothes, and she recreated. She took a traditional Choson military uniform, which is called a cholik, and it has like longer. It's kind of a longer robe than the traditional like everyday male hanbok, and she turned it into a women's wrap dress with this
fun.
like it's so cute. And like if you look up a cholik, CHEOLIK is how it's romanized. If you look that up, you can easily see how it would turn into a wrap dress that is like midi length with like a V-neck, and there are a lot of examples of modern styles because once she designed this, it instantly sparked a lot of copycat designs across the country, and she got like really bitter about it. but that's fair because she did it first, and it makes a really cute dress. It's like kind of 50s. It kind of feels like
oh my god, these
like
are
Dior
fucking
in the
adorable.
50s. Yeah, they're so
they
cute,
almost have
right?
like an apron.
Yes.
Like a cute little and the waist is so tight. This makes a great line. I love these.
Yeah, they're stunning.
These are adorable.
So that was in the early 2000s, and then this continued. So like I said, that design, which it like easily translates from this male traditional robe to a female wrap dress, and it sparked a lot of copycats. It was a really popular design throughout the country. And then in the early 2010s, we get something that's called #Hanbokstagram. Because if you look up that hashtag on Instagram, you will see a ton of examples of exactly what I'm talking about. I read this article that was in Vogue about the resurgence of hanbok, and they had spoken to some teenager or like late teens, early 20 somethings who talked about how there used to be hanbok parties at universities, and where they would get together specifically to like party in these hanboks. I guess maybe kind of like a toga party, but
Sure.
it sparked this trend of teens modernizing and customizing the fabrics themselves, and they would be making hanbok shaped clothing out of fabrics that they would get at like the wholesale market or a thrift store or something like that. And so these independent designers and these small shops started popping up, and they began to blend the traditional style or the traditional lines with more modern styles. And in 2014, the amount of hanbok in the Korean fashion industry was like 1% of the designs that were being made. But in that same year, the Vogue stylist I mentioned earlier, So Young-hee, she helped start the Hanbok Advancement Center, which hosts programs about hanbok education, so like different fashion history classes, not only on the history of different lines, but also like construction and design courses, and they also host different events as well. And I think that this really helped push the design or the trend now for designers to start factoring that into their new collections. And the very next year, you started to see hanbok on those runways. So in the 2015 Seoul Fashion Week, Karl Lagerfeld of Chanel closed the Chanel Resort collection in Seoul with these Hanbok inspired gowns. And at the Paris Fashion Week, it was also spotted and photographed for Vogue as part of the street style. Like people who went to the Paris Fashion Week were wearing traditional Hanbok. So what that has led to is what's now called Shin Hanbok, which means new Hanbok. And this is modern Hanbok brands that are looking to make Hanbok fit the modern setting and make them for everyday wear. So that's where you're taking things like that original cholik and turning it into a really nice, easy wrap dress, or taking that traditional Hanbok male jacket and making it into like a slightly longer tied suit jacket instead, or even like, you know, a blouse or something that has like the wrap tie. So there's a couple different brands that are really popular now in Korea. One of them is called Army, ARMI. It was founded by a designer, Park Mi-yeon, and it now has over 50 chain stores across the country. And they are known for incorporating different pieces of Hanbok with just casual outfits of the day. So that's a great example of Shin Hanbok. And I'm pretty sure they ship internationally if you're trying to look for those kinds of things. A really popular brand that I kept coming across in all my research was called Lisle. And this kind of was born out of that Hanbokstagram era of these like Hanbok parties and like making the clothes yourself. Hwang Lisle, which I think is how you pronounce that, but I'm not entirely sure. Thank you. She creates altered Hanboks that are easy to wash. They come in multiple sizes. Sometimes she will like trade out things for like zippers or easy fasteners. So they are like a fully modern spin on Hanbok. They're in cheaper fabrics, so they're more affordable because they're not made of pure silk. And she started her company in 2014, like when the Hanbok party trend was getting big. And she said her motivation was that Korea has more than 5,000 years of its own history and clothing traditions, but people treat Hanbok like clothes reserved only for formal occasions. I thought that if it continues this way, then our unique traditions will disappear. So she wanted to be able to bring that tradition into just an everyday, which is such a cool idea. Another brand that's well known and is getting really popular recently in the last couple of years is called Danha. They were launched in 2018, but they designed the fashion Hanbok that was worn by Blackpink in How You Like That. And so they recently got like super popular, but they actually focus on sustainability, and 30 to 50% of their clothes are made with recycled fabrics. And the founder of the company says that it's actually an easy fit with traditional Korean design because compared to Western shapes, original Hanbok designs produce less scraps. And there's right? Because it's the straight lines. There's also a company called Sorinare, which is best known for making matching couple outfits, and I think that's really cute.
Yeah, I was totally skimming all of these websites while you were talking, and all of this stuff is beautiful, and I want all of it. And all the tie pants, they're like baggy harem pants with ties, and they look so comfortable.
I love all the blouses, like, because they have like sort of box shapes, which is just so lovely, and the like those dresses that have the like sort of tighter high bust, and then just like the beautiful skirt, like it really does transition so well into modern lines. Like the fusion is perfection, and
beautiful.
I love it. So how does this intersect with K-pop? It comes up a lot. I mean, we've brought up a few different times throughout the year. I feel like we started talking about it because of Ace. They like really caught our eye with it. This fashion Hanbok. But no, Shin Hanbok is the term we now have. But so some of the like we said, some of the examples of the songs that we've already talked about had examples of this Shin Hanbok in the concepts of their music videos. So like Vic's Shangri-La is a great example of this. Their jacket, not only do they use like the fan to be like a traditional piece of it, or a traditional piece of the look, but their hanbok that they're wearing is structured as Western suit jackets with traditional accessories. So they'll have like a waist pendant around the waist, or like the sash and tassel around the waist, or they have like some of the fabrics in the lapels and the lines in the lapels of the jackets. One Us Lit, the song that we mentioned earlier, also has full hanbok sets, and then other sets that have like just inspired pieces. You can see it in the embroidery, the pendants, the lapels. And we talked about Top Dog with their like hip hop hanbok as well, and they have the ladies in that Lee Young-hee style dress with no jackets. So definitely playing off of the scantiness in there.
Yes.
BTS Idol also, most of that music video is not a traditional set, but there's at the very end there is a set where they're like CGI in like a pagoda is the wrong word, but they're in kind of like a palace style building, and they are wearing what's called a dopo, which is the overcoat of hanbok worn by Confucian scholars, but they have casual clothing underneath. So the clothes, they're not wearing like t-shirts and jeans, but the like slacks and shirts that they're wearing kind of echo the fabric, the like black and gold fabric of the dopo, so you don't notice right away that they're not in full hanbok, but it's really just the jacket or the coat that's over it. In Follow as well, Monsta X, they have kind of that Shangri-La style hanbok inspired suit jacket. They have the like Jogori inspired lines in the lapels and in the fabrics and in the way that the jacket will tie together. Yeah, a lot of pendants and tassels. Of course, Ravi with his main pansori singer in Boom, she's in a full traditional, and then the choir is in like a what would be called an altered hanbok, because they have like T-length skirts where they hit like just above the ankle, so it doesn't go all the way down to the ground. We talked about Me No Fiance, the ladies in their scanty no jacket dresses, the scandal. Suga as August D in his, remind me how to say, Dechita?
Dechita.
Okay, Dechita. There's a W in the Roman.
I think you have to yell it.
Dechita. So he wears a few different sets of, because the whole concept of this music video and song is historical. So there is one set where he's wearing full traditional hanbok, but he has modern sneakers on. And then there's a street scene where he's wearing more of what you would consider Shin hanbok, because the jacket and the like wrap around tie shirt are inspired by it, but he's wearing like more modern pants and I think sneakers. I don't know, you can't really see them in that. Anyway, also like I mentioned, Blackpink, How You Like That, they have like the cropped jogori jacket, but they're wearing, you know, just like tops and shorts and stuff underneath it. It looks great. But those are the kinds of jogoris that I think, like you were saying, the people in that city would have gotten mad about, because they're these like really bright colors and they have these like glitter embroidery on them, and they're like sheer, like Jenny's is like a sheer pink. Even though traditional hanbok is known for having vivid colors, I think it's just sort of the like beading and the sheer fabrics that are getting people's knickers in a twist.
Yeah, I also think that the colors, I wanted to like have more time to look into it, but I was like, now I'm just like opening a different can of worms of like traditional Korean costumes and art or whatever. But just as an observer as a souvenir buyer and a visitor of the country twice, it appears that there's a set of colors, and they appear in stripes most of the time in a very specific order. And like, that has to be on purpose. And it's like a primary colors with white and black. And then there's a very hot pink, and there's a kind of like blue, and like those are the colors that are on all the souvenirs and that are always worn by the traditional band. And I think that there's like a set of colors that are the okay colors.
Yeah, like more
and then after that,
tones.
then you're just getting wacky.
Yeah, and hanbok, like when you get into hanfu, like the traditional Chinese clothes, you get really, really fancy with the fabrics, like crazy brocade, gorgeous lace, sheer things that are just like, oh my God, they make your like mouth drool with how like luxurious these fabrics are. But hanbok fabrics are silk. Plain and simple, like that's what they are traditionally. They're not sheer, they are not glittery, like they are made of silk. So then making something that would then have like lace in it or be see-through in some way, like I can see how that might get under some traditionalist skin. But speaking of that exact look of some sheer hanbok, another example is Oh My Girl on Queendom. They, for one of their Queendom performances, they covered the Lovelyz song Destiny, and they wore these shortened black hanbok outfits where the skirt itself was short and the sleeves of the jogori was also short, but underneath they had they had a lace garment underneath it. So they had like long lace sleeves and the lace skirt, and then they had like the traditional pendants around their waist. So it was like a cute little like cocktail version.
Yeah, fun.
And then Ace is the first time that I remember really like, wow, look at this fashion hanbok. I've never seen anything like it. This is stunning, because they structured their whole Goblin Favorite Boys comeback around this style. And they all of their teaser images, they did this stunning underwater photo shoot where they're wearing traditional hanbok. But then for the Favorite Boys music video and stages, they're wearing that shin hanbok, where they're wearing the hanbok over streetwear. But the whole concept, like I said, is like based in this mixture of historical and traditional Korean elements. I read this interview with the boys where they talked about how not only in the fashion and in the accessories, like they have, you know, the jade rings and the pendants and the hair and the wigs, but they also, the choreography itself is based off of a traditional Korean wrestling style called tsirum, which is featured in fairy tales, because fairy tales that feature goblins wrestle humans with tsirum. So the all of the like sort of circular like spins and jumps that are in the choreography are modeled after this traditional wrestling style, which is featured in the fairy tale. So fun. Stray Kids Back Door also has hanbok inspired jackets and shirts. It's all in the lines and the fabric and the embroidery. I think they wore it on maybe one or two stages, but it's in the music video for sure. And then Super M Tiger Inside, I feel like that's one of the more like cohesive looks, where it's like they like really went for it, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like in the way yes.
But it makes me sad because it's not enough. They don't show these outfits until the last 30 seconds of the music video. Yeah. And they're the most like pretty and cohesive outfits of the video.
100%.
Like, Taemin and Kai and Ten look like fucking princes in their like long coats, and Taeyong has he has a crop top under his
crop top. Genius.
It's genius, and they like match so well, and the fabrics look really luxurious, and every single one of their outfits is totally different, but they go together. I just like them so much, and I'm sad that they aren't featured more in the video because I think they're great.
That's totally fair. I can't remember now if I said, but we're talking about Tiger Inside. If I
Tiger Inside, Super M.
Which wasn't a song that I loved. I was like, this just feels kind of like dropping 100 2.0. But these suits are stunning. And they do have like, each one of them has a very different look. It reminded me of some of the like collections we've looked at in our stage outfit spotlights, where there's clearly been a lot of attention to detail paid to each individual member, and each individual member like really looks fantastic. I just like all their like, I almost want to call them blouses, because they're not really like shirts, and they're not button ups, but because they like tie so lovely, so lovelily, so beautifully. They tie so nicely, and there's like gorgeous embroidery on all of them.
I think they're blousy because like Kai's,
I think they're blousy.
They look blousy because Kai's jacket is very open and that the sleeves are open and have like a cool crisscross going down the side. And then he has full puffy pirate bell. Like there are full bell sleeves on this shirt covering his hands. But yeah, I love it. I love all the sashes and like Mark has a vest and like, I don't know, all their outfits are different and beautiful and they look shiny and they look expensive.
Yes.
And Kai has a little ponytail. But yeah, I think everyone forgot because this is the music video where Kai is like really buff for no reason and his arms are out and it's very distracting otherwise.
Yeah,
why was he so buff? We keep asking, but
Hanbok.
literally, why was he so buff for?
We never really got an explanation. Like maybe this is the only reason. Like he got really, or maybe he just like, I don't know. It was like I had a lot of time off and I just went to the gym with Chanyeol a lot. And like, maybe Chanyeol was sad and so he like went to the gym every day with Chanyeol. And like that's why he got so buff because he was being a good bro.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
It's possible. That's it. That's all I had.
Well, I really liked that. Thank you so much. I know you had fun because you like studying about clothes.
God,
but
I love studying about clothes. It was so fun. And I love looking. Yeah, I had so much fun looking through all of the pictures and seeing all the different ways that designers choose to incorporate the different elements because there's really no limit to like how you can like which part of the hanbok you want to incorporate into it. And like the Super M outfits are a good example of all the different ways you can fuse the two styles together. So I'm super into this trend and I hope it doesn't go away because I like it.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. And yeah, I was just so curious to look into this because I feel like a couple of months ago I saw an article about how people had started wearing everyday hanbok to like the office and like bosses were trying to figure out like if that was chill or not. Like, well, it's like traditional and we like it, but like
but is it
maybe you should be in a suit and feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. And then it was also kind of tied up in like how the pandemic has like broke everyone's brains and they're just like, I don't want to do things I don't want to anymore. Yeah. And so people are like, I want to wear hanbok because it feels like pajamas. And like, you're not going to tell me I can't. And I just think that's fun.
I also think it's a really cool trend of like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, like other examples of this like traditional clothing that is starting to get brought out into modern styles. Like I love this idea of like wearing your culture on your sleeve and like finding a fun way to blend those traditional styles because Western clothes is boring. Like a t-shirt and jeans, like suit and a tie, like sure, everyone looks great in a suit, but other cultures' clothing is way cooler.
Yeah.
You get more fabrics.
And most of those things,
more
and
patterns.
Yeah, most of those, exactly. And I feel like most of those things have been like, you know, beat out of people by the colonizers or whatever.
Yeah, so this reclamation of your identity and like literally putting it on you like, you know what? You came over here and you made me wear a suit and now this is what I'm going to do with it.
But this is what I think of it and I'm going to wear this instead.
Yeah. Or I'm going to blend the two in a beautiful new 2021 marriage.
Yeah.
For the future.
So yeah, I love this more fusion in fashion and music because I think it's great. Yeah. So, I hope you all learned a little today because I certainly learned a lot putting it together. And we'll be right back with our random game. Attention K-pop shoppers, K-Star Music LA is the newest spot in Los Angeles to get all your favorite K-pop goodies. You can visit them at 3500 West 6th Street in Los Angeles or shop anytime at kstarmusic.online. And listeners have asked me about K-pop get a special free gift when you use code KSTAR with AMA at checkout. So whether you have albums to pre-order, light sticks to collect, or just need some more Kakao Friends plushies, you can always visit K-Star Music in person or at kstarmusic.online. All right, we're back. And this week, the random number generator gave us temporary TV show girl group IOI.
Yeah, they knew that we had run long with our main segment, so they said, we're going to give you a group that you've already talked about.
Yes, we have. If you have not listened to our Producing a Scandal episode, please check that out right now. We talked about the Produce 101 franchise and its demise and every season. And IOI is the group that was formed on the first season of that disgraced and defunct reality show, where the premise was that they took trainees from many companies, 101 trainees, and made a group of 11 girls that would promote for a single year. And they did that, and you might know many of the IOI members as soloist Chunga, or members of Wiki Miki, Gugudan. What else? So they're soloists.
so many,
they're cosmic
yeah.
girls. They're Pristons. They're Dayas. And as we've spoken about before, they are all cursed because of the terrible show that they were on.
Except for the Wiki Mikis so far, knock on wood.
Knock on
They've
everything,
been doing
we still
okay.
have Wiki Miki. But yeah, this was yeah, they only got to promote for 1 year, and as we discussed, all the groups that came after them got like a better hand. But in their time as a group, they were able to release 2 EPs, and their singles all did pretty well because they were all popular and voted on by the public. But their only number 1 hit was off of their debut album, and it was called Very, Very, Very. And that is the music video that we're going to be watching together right now.
And was this their official debut song?
I think it was. I want to check, because I think that first album was mostly made up of like the challenge songs from the first season, like Yum Yum and Pick Me and stuff, which I think were like part of the
show.
TV show.
Yeah. So
I know Very, Very, Very to be their debut, but maybe it was What a Man, you know? Let's see. Can I find this out? Can I find this out in a reasonable amount of time?
10.
Debut.
9,
Oh no, their debut song is called Dream Girls. And it goes, "We are the Dream Girls. Dream Girls." And they like sing about how they're your dream girls. So
Great.
no, this was not the first one, but it was their biggest hit. So.
Okay.
All right, I have the video pulled up. Do you have the video pulled up?
I sure do.
All right, we're going to 3, 2, 1, press play on go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, we've got a lot of doorways, yellow and white. Girls.
Yes, they have a cute, like a little gym concept. These cute gym socks and like...
Yeah. And the close-ups look like... Oh, yeah, okay, we're in a gym. And we've got like red and white.
Yes, little red and white, like tennis skirts and gym shorts.
Yeah, like little gym outfits. And so each set has like a different gym outfit. Wow, look at Chunga in a girl group.
It's really funny to see, like, a
To
lot
know
of them
them
seem
now.
kind of unrecognizable in this, like, you know, brown hair.
Yeah.
They all have brown
They
hair,
all
which
have
is
brown
standard for, you know,
And they're like
new
very
girl
cutesy.
group.
And Chunga doesn't do cutesy things anymore. So it is
Yeah.
really funny to see her in like this.
Yeah, but the color palette is very strong. I like this yellow and this green and the mint and the white. Like, it works.
Yes. And some of the close-ups, the girls are wearing these like cute little fake freckles. Oh, Dalian, you're so beautiful.
I just saw those fake freckles. I just saw a picture of Yenan today that was he was wearing little heart freckles, and I was like, those are fucking cute.
Adorable.
Yeah, see, like, this is just sad because look at all these Pristons that are just like gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Gugudan's like actually finally done as of like a few weeks ago, I think.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, as we've discussed many times on this show, a lot of these, like Chaeyoung from Daya, this one over here in the white, like her group suffered because the rest of them would never be able to reach her level of recognition. So they were known as they said on the unit, Chaeyoung and those other girls.
Yeah.
Which put like I don't know. We talked about it a lot in that episode, but Produce 101 was a crazy idea, and I don't know what it's gonna do to all these people.
Yes, because it's one thing to have a group that is made of trainees who have not yet debuted with their company, but it's another thing to then have them, oh, well, I guess they hadn't debuted yet, and so it was just like the after effect when they debuted after being in Produce 101 or being in IOI, then like they're just automatically so much more famous than their other members.
Yeah.
And that's not the same as a group like EXID becoming really famous because like Hani's fan cam got famous, right? Because like they were already a group together. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's a weird
because Produce was a thing, and Produce was a thing where people were like voting for like their singular favorite. So I think it also created a bit of akge culture that like can't be undone once you've done that.
Yeah, that's true, because you were pitting them against each other and there were like rankings.
Yeah. Well, at least they left us with a few bops, and you know, we have our Chang'a and we have our Somi and our Wikimikis, and Sejong just put out a cute solo. So even though they killed Gugudan, like she's still around. Oh boy.
She's the one that's on Busted, right? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes. Surely.
That's what I thought.
All right. Weekly recommendation time. I'm just going to like truly reiterate that I think that everybody needs to listen to the Linalchi album. Just because I think that it's so interesting and different and unlike any music I've ever, like, it's familiar. The bass loops feel familiar, but the pansori singing make it feel like something I've never heard before. And it really is just like so addicting and cool and fun. And those tourism commercials are a great watch.
Oh my gosh,
even though
so
it was
fun.
part of the episode, I really do think that's my recommendation, is I think you need to check those out because they're fun.
I don't have much that I have been like listening to lately that I feel like recommending. I will recommend, if you want to see the fashion Shin Hanbok in action, please check out some of the music videos that we mentioned in this episode, whether you want to see the more traditional stylings or those fusion elements. But other than that, I want to turn us to the Patreon, because if you are a seasoned tier member or seasoned fan tier Patreon subscriber, then you have the opportunity to write in and send us a recommendation. You can send us a recommendation once a month, and we will just pull this list and read them out whenever we get them. You should have received a Google form in order to submit it. If you need it, email us. Okay, anyway. So I'm going to read out whoever made this recommendation did not write their name, so I don't know who it's from. But they said, any K-pop group that can make it 10 years in this competitive industry deserves a recommendation. In honor of both recent anniversaries, I'd like to recommend the debut songs for both B1A4, which is called Okay, and A-Pink, I Don't Know.
Yay, I love that recommendation, because I totally forgot to shout it out, because I think we recorded last week's episode on their anniversary, but on the 19th, A-Pink turned 10 years old, and I'm so proud of them, because I think they're like the second girl group ever to make it to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful, and I'm so blessed, and I'm just so grateful that I chose them as my favorite girl group, because they've never let me down. And I love them so much. And they put out a little fan song called Thank You, and it's just like a sweet little fan song, and the music video has them just like looking at old pictures of themselves and like singing, and none of, except for the two who did their faces, they don't look different at all. Like 10 years has not aged them, and they're magical, and I love them, and I'm so proud.
Oh, yes. Congratulations. Congratulations to A-Pink. It's not easy for girl groups out there. And congratulations to B1A4 as well. 10 years, no small feat. So cheers to you both.
And that is it for this week's episode. If you would like to get in contact with us, we can be found at AMA Kpop Pod on most of the places like Twitter and Instagram. And our email is amakpoppod@gmail.com. And I say this pointedly because I would like to ask you listeners for something. I'm trying to get better at asking you guys for things I need your input on, because we have a whole list. We have a huge list of episodes we want to do, but we need your help. And so here's me remembering to ask for one. My current ask will be, what are some misheard K-pop lyrics in your own life? And I think that I specifically reach this question to our international listeners who speak a language other than English, because I think a lot of the English misheard lyrics are like pretty well known, or like kind of popular. Like a lot of people have misheard the same things. But if you speak a totally different language and you hear something crazy in the K-pop, please write us about that and then tell us like why it's like, just explain it, because I think that will be so fun to know. So please email us any of your misheard K-pop lyrics. And I say email because then I won't lose them. If you tweet them at me, I will forget about it.
Yes, it's easier for us to compile. Email amakpoppod@gmail.com. And that doesn't mean that if you don't speak another language, you can't email us.
Oh, no. I was just saying.
But yes.
Especially if you're like,
if you've heard something in another language, let us know. We want to know that too.
Yeah, so that's my call to action. There's no hard deadline on that. I was just going to wait till we get some in. So if you're hearing this call and this episode isn't more than 2 or 3 weeks old, send that in. Other ways you can get into contact with us, we have a phone number, 181-AMA-KPOP5 for leaving voicemails. You can send us snail mail to our P.O. Box.
P.O. Box 26096, Los Angeles, California, 90026.
And as mentioned a couple times in this episode, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/AMAKPopPod for as little as $3 a month. You can get our Patreon content, and our 10th video episode is going up this week, and it's really funny and embarrassing to us. So if you would like to pay a little money to see what that's all about, join our Patreon.
Yeah, and even if you join right now for only $3, you would get 10 episodes because you will have access to everything we've recorded since we started our Patreon, which was 10 months ago.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's almost been a year. Whoa.
Also, happy birthday to Chen's baby daughter, who is 1 year old now. What the F?
Oh my God. We were just talking about this over the weekend, but I watched like this really old EXO Love Me Right performance, and it was so wild because I was just like, he's a father. One of these boys is a father now.
You can't forget it. It's too crazy.
It is. It is crazy.
All right. Well, this was a great time. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. We will be back next week with something fun. As always, take care of yourself. Get a vaccine if you can. And we love you guys. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Jonghyun, you're our inspiration.